painting was bought in August 1997. The buyer hung it in his bedroom, but from that day on, he would always hear footsteps and knocking sounds at night. One night, when he turned on the light to check, he discovered that the woman in the painting was blinking. Frightened, he returned the painting. After that, the painting was resold twice, but each time it was returned again, for the same reason. The woman in the painting blinks. As the rumor spread, people began calling it the evolving painting. Helpless, the artist finally donated the painting to a museum in 1999 so that people could witness for themselves the strange phenomenon surrounding it, a story whose eeriness might surpass your imagination. So, viewer discretion is advised, and tag your bravest friends before reading further. The story begins with a young man named Zhongping. Zhongping was a migrant worker in the city. One morning, while walking to work with his girlfriend, he passed a gallery on a pedestrian street. At that moment, a portrait of a smiling woman hanging inside caught his eye. The painting was so delicate and lifelike that Zhongping was stunned, because the woman in it looked exactly like his sister, who had been missing for years. Her name was Li Huan. 5 years earlier, after graduating, she had come to the city to work and lost contact with her family. They had searched for her for years but found nothing. Zhongping felt sure the painter must have some connection to his sister. Unfortunately, the gallery hadn't opened yet. Anxious and unsure, he considered calling the police. When he noticed 2 detectives nearby, he walked up to them, slightly nervous, and continued telling his story. He said that when he looked closely at the painting, the woman's eyes suddenly began to shed bright red tears like blood. Then, the skin on her face started to rot and peel away, leaving behind hollow, lifeless eyes that stared directly at him. Zhongping found himself completely paralyzed, unable even to blink, forced to stare back at the horrifying image. The woman in the painting grew more terrifying by the second, her flesh decaying, her face disintegrating until only raw muscle showed beneath, and then one of her eyeballs fell out. The scene was so horrific that Zhongping nearly fainted. Suddenly, he jolted awake, realizing it had all been a hallucination. He heard his girlfriend calling his name. She had noticed him standing motionless and, panicked, bit his arm to snap him out of it. When he came to, Zhongping told her, trembling, "That woman, that's my sister." He explained everything, how he'd come to the city to find his missing sister, and how he couldn't ignore even the smallest chance of finding her. He believed what he'd just seen wasn't an illusion, but rather a message from his sister's spirit, reaching out to him from beyond. His girlfriend tried to stop him, but Zhongping rushed straight to the police station. Officer Lao Wang and his partner Feng Dui, after hearing what Zhongping had experienced, immediately sensed that there was more to the story. They decided to investigate together. Following Zhongping, they arrived at an art gallery on Pedestrian Street. From a distance, they could already see the oil painting he had mentioned. By that time, the gallery was open, so the 3 of them went inside and asked the owner about the painting. The gallery owner provided some background information about the artwork and, after rummaging through some boxes, managed to find the painter's contact address. Lao Wang and Feng Tai took the artist's business card and prepared to visit his home. However, they did not allow Zhongping to come along. Such cases could easily trigger emotional outbursts or even conflicts, and they'd seen that happen before. With no other choice, the young man went back to work while the 2 officers immediately drove to the address listed on the card. The place turned out to be an old 2-story apartment building where most of the tenants were young migrant workers. It took them quite some time to locate the apartment number written on the card. Lao Wang knocked for a long while, but there was no response. Just as they were about to ask the neighbors, slow, heavy footsteps came from inside. After a moment, the door creaked open. The room beyond was dimly lit, and in the doorway stood a middle-aged man wearing filthy clothes, his hair messy and his face covered with stubble. Lao Wang showed his police badge and explained why they had come. The man, however, appeared completely calm, as if he had been expecting them. Without saying much, he turned around and gestured for them to enter. Inside, the officer's eyes adjusted to the faint light, revealing that the place was a painter's studio. On the walls hung several oil portraits, each one depicting the same woman, Zhongping's sister Li Huan, yet every painting exuded an eerie aura. The woman in them all wore a blood-red dress, her skin a ghastly pale gray. Sensing that the man wasn't going to hide anything, Lao Wang got straight to the point. The man, surprisingly, confessed immediately that he had killed Li Huan. But when asked why, His answer was shocking. Because of love. Lao Wang could tell that the man's mental state was unstable, so he gently encouraged him to keep talking. The man said that he and Li Huan were together every day. That strange statement made the officers realize something was terribly wrong and that Li Huan's body might still be inside the room. Then, behind them, they noticed a large object that caught their attention. Behind the door stood a massive cylindrical fish tank filled with liquid. Inside it floated the body of a woman wearing a bright red traditional Chinese bridal gown. It was Li Huan.